authentically peculiar, authentically peculiar, authentically peculiar.
Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Welcome to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia, Season 3. I am so elated that we are going to be able to interview multiple guests as we are discussing the year of self. During this year, we're going to talk about financial wellness, mental wellness, emotional wellness, the journey to authenticity, overcoming trauma, and so much more. So stay tuned. Go ahead, like, subscribe, share, and welcome back to another episode of Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Today, I come before you to talk with you about conflict resolutions in relationships. Oftentimes, most people enter into a relationship and all they know about it is what they've observed. They haven't gotten their own identity about a relationship within themselves or a relationship with others. The only identity they've tapped into is observed behavior, whether it's within their home, between their parents, whether that's toxic or healthy, whether it's friendships and relationships outside of the home, seeing people kind of go throughout the day, trying to understand what it is. If you raised in a toxic relationship, 9 times out of 10, you are looking at people outside of the household to find out what the normal is. If you're raised in a restricted household, again, you're going outside of the household to see what freedom looks like. A lot of times in the development of relationship, it's passed down through generations. We understand that years ago in the 1900s, early 1900s, before women had a voice, that we were subjected to whatever the man told us, wanted us, and did to us. Because women did not get an individual identity until the late 50s. They didn't get opportunities to even sign their name for credit until 1970. So a lot of times women were stuck in that mindset that I'm only here to do whatever that man wants me to do, and I'm stuck raising children, and that's the only plight that I have for life. Unfortunately, what that did was rob the voice of that woman. And so when she went into these relationships, the only thing that she knew how to do was to be a servant to the man and the children and to exclude what her needs were. Oftentimes, nowadays, we are finding that people are getting divorced after many, many years of being married, in decades of being married, because someone woke up and said, "This is not what I want. I never had a voice. I never had an identity." I encourage developing your identity of yourself first, very early in life. I encourage people to talk to their children so that they can identify their strengths, they can identify their areas of improvement, they can identify the things that make them happy. I encourage individuals to become empowered in their own voices, because you have to have all of those things in order to have a healthy relationship. You have to know who you are. I also encourage that if you've gone through a toxic relationship and you've been relieved from that relationship, take time to heal. And the healing can't be just a topical part of the relationship. You have to dig deeper, go all the way back into that space where you first established relationships in your life. When was that? Well, with your parents. What type of relationship did you have with your parents? What type of relationship did you have with yourself? Were you prone to talk down to yourself? Were you prone to hear negative words about yourself from your parents or from your siblings? Those are the relationship bondages that you'll have to break in order for you to experience a really healthy relationship. I often hear clients say, well, I need to talk about, my mom or my husband or my wife or whomever, but I don't want you to think bad about them. Listen, therapy isn't to pass judgment on other people. Therapy is purpose so that we can help you identify where your strengths are, where your areas of improvement are, and what you actually need to have a happy relationship. In order for you to develop that happy relationship, you have to ask yourself, well, who am I without a relationship? What is my identity without all of these extensions saying that I'm this person to everyone else? Who are you to you? What is that relationship like with you? Well, before you can really answer those questions, you actually have to get to know you. What do you like? What are your true characteristics? I often tell people that I'm a triple Virgo because I was born in a Virgo rising. I am a Virgo. And I'm a triple Virgo all the way around. I'm Virgo through and through. But what I've had to learn in my lifetime is that a lot of the characteristics of Virgo, I had to learn to balance. I had to learn to balance that everything around me didn't have to be perfect, but it needed to be complete. Once I learned the definition of perfection only means completion, I changed my staunch behavior about perfection. I also recognize that one of the things about myself is I don't like to be yelled at, and I'll shut down, because if I begin yelling, that is going to literally bring out what I call the beast in me. And I like to keep her tamed. I like to keep her under control. I also like to be heard. And that goes all the way back to my early childhood where I wasn't heard. My voice was silenced. And so I know for me, in a relationship with myself, I have learned to become intuitive to what my needs are. I am very self-aware of what my needs are. And so that lessens the opportunity for people to come in with game. I did a discussion last night about narcissism, and I talked about how important it is to really know who you are and to be strong in who you are to prevent a narcissism from tapping into your weakness or that dire need to be seen, heard, and loved. When you see yourself, when you hear yourself, and when you love yourself, that power remains within inside of you. It's not given away, and it's not easily manipulated. It's not easily taken advantage of. And then most oftentimes you don't live with any regrets. Even if a relationship comes to an end, there are no regrets. Hopefully, you've shown up as yourself the entire time in the relationship. And in showing up for yourself, you also know when it's time for you to exit, when yourself is no longer pleased. Am I promoting divorce? Absolutely not. What I am promoting is healthy relationships with a reduction of conflict resolutions. Most people don't know how to communicate. Most people communicate to be heard, not to comprehend. And you have to do both. You have to be heard and you have to comprehend what the person is saying. You know, there are two parties in a conversation, the messenger and the receiver. It depends on what role that you're in, how the message is going to come through. Now, if I am the messenger and I've decided that I have an attitude about something and I need to address it, my delivery is going to depend on how the receiver gets the message that I want. Oftentimes I'll rehearse tough conversations so that I can make sure that all of the icky stuff I get out before I actually have the conversation, because ultimately the goal is I need you to hear what my message is. So that means that I need to operate in a state of emotional functionality where I am not high on emotions. I'm not saying that you can't get upset. I'm not saying that you can't get angry. And I'm not saying if you choose to go tit for tat, that's your choice, or to match energy. What I am saying is, bottom line, what do you want that person to hear from you? What is the actual message? Well, if I'm a person that doesn't like people to yell at me, I'm going to be on a defense. So it doesn't matter what you say. But you can say the ugliest things to me in the calmest voice, and I'll hear you, and I'll respond in that same calm voice. Years ago in my 20s, I would try to come back with you. I would try to prove that I was right. I would try to prove that I was worthy. And then I had to ask myself, well, why would I need to do that for someone that may have not found value in me? See, we have to learn how to reduce conflict by asking ourselves a really simple question. What am I telling myself? What's my story? What am I actually hearing in the midst of this conversation? Why am I being defensive? It's their feelings. If someone came to me and said to me, you hurt my feelings, my response is going to be, can you tell me what you felt like I did to hurt your feelings? Well, why am I asking that? Because I never have a malicious intent to hurt someone's feelings. It takes too much energy, and I don't want to give that kind of energy to anybody. So I will ask them, can you tell me what I did? My next question or my next statement is going to be, I need to apologize because that perception and that was not what I intended it to be, but I hear how it hurt you. And for that, I do apologize. Now, if my messaging was clear and concise and it wasn't aggressive, it wasn't attacking, I'm still going to say, I hear you. I hear your perception. For that, I apologize that you perceived it that way. It was never my intention. Now, if my words are true, my words are true. What it does is help me to recognize that in conversation with this particular person, I may not be able to deliver my message because they are in a place of offense and or defense. They're easily offended. Well, if they're automatically an easily offended person, then you can't change that for them. Only thing that you can do is give them your message. Let them know I don't like the way that you talked to me or handled me or treated me or anything like that. But it all begins in asking myself, what story am I telling myself? And the person that's sitting in offense or the one that needs to go on defense need to ask themselves, what am I actually hearing? Are they actually trying to hurt me? Are they trying to demean me or defame me? What is their intent in this conversation? Where am I in the conversation? How am I showing up in this conversation? And so when you begin to ask yourself those questions, you'll find your body going, what I heard is this. What I feel is this. So when you're having a conversation with your mate and you give yourself permission to ask yourself, what are they actually saying? What story am I perceiving? Because listen, life experiences have caused us to create a plethora of stories in our head. We'll create stories that someone doesn't like us, someone ignored us or made us feel invisible, somebody doesn't value us, and all those kind of things. I had someone one time say to me, I can't believe that you didn't speak to me. And I said, well, when did I see you? You saw me standing over there. And I was like, was I talking to other people? Well, yeah, but you saw me. I said, probably not, because when I'm engaging in conversation, I really intentionally focus on the people that's right in front of me. So I don't do a lot of peripheral searching if I'm in a safe space. Now, if I'm in a space where I have to be concerned of who's going to walk up behind me or on the side of me, I would have seen you better. But if someone was directly in front of me and I was actually engaging in a conversation, I didn't see you. So I'm sorry that you felt that I ignored you, but I didn't see you. And the person was like, I didn't look at it that way. I thought you could see me, out of the side of your eye. Well, that's what perception is. That is why you have conversations, so that you can clear up any foolishness. People who hold aught in their hearts or misconstrue any kind of messaging, those people are miserable. Because if you're holding on to a situation and you never let the person speak their piece about it, you're miserable. Because you're running around with your face all frowned up and not talking to people and spreading lies and all that kind of stuff. You're miserable. I'm the kind of person that if you feel like I've done something to wrong you, please let me know. I won't be offended about you coming to me about how you feel. Now, if you come in an aggressive manner, you might get met with some aggressive responses. For example, if you come to me aggressively, you might get met with, why do you feel the need to talk to me like that? Hold on. Let's start over. This isn't going to end well. Let's have a conversation. And then I'll slow me down. And oftentimes, if there is no redirection of energy, I'll go ahead and dismiss myself from the conversation because I will not entertain someone that is at a high level of aggression and want to engage in a conversation with me. Because one, here's the point. Do you know you when someone steps on your toes is what my grandmother said. How do you respond when someone steps on your toes? Well, I know me that when the energy is too aggressive, I will shift into a defensive position. And my defensive position is strike. So in order for me to not do that, I'll go ahead and walk away. I'll push myself away from it and I'll give warning. I'm going to walk away from this conversation. So let's go back to what story am I telling myself? Am I actually a deliverer of a message that I want to be heard, or do I just want to get my point across? Well, if you just want to get your point across, you don't care how it comes out. But if you are a deliverer of a message that has a point in it, then you think about what that delivery needs to be like. So you don't always understand somebody else's story. You don't understand what someone may have gone, what mental, roller coaster they may have gone through before you engage in a conversation. For example, husband and wife, they're just waking up. They had a disagreement last night. One of them got up happy-go-lucky and they're ready to go. The other one is stuck in the conversation of last night. One person says, good morning, did you sleep well? The other person, what you mean did I sleep well? How could I sleep well? You ain't da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, the truth is the person that's going in has to ask themselves, what did I take to bed with me? Because it's okay to have disagreements. It depends on how you want to rest with it. Do you want to be in conflict? Is conflict all that you know? Do you want to fight? Or do you want to come up with a solution? Do you want to be able to say, we went to bed last night and left things kind of at a stinking place. And I wrestled while I was sleeping. And I'll be honest, you saying good morning to me kind of pushed my buttons a little bit. This will open the conversation to say, well, why? Oh, because I was annoyed that you may have moved on from the conversation and I wasn't done. You didn't let me finish what I had to say. Well, when you can operate in conversations like that, there's healing. Because now you got your partner's attention saying, okay, what is it that you want to say? And then you all can engage in that conversation. But you are the owner of your emotions and the delivery of the message. But you have to understand what your message is and what you want someone else to hear. The next thing to reduce conflict is going to be asking yourself, what do I really want? What do I want out of this conversation, out of this relationship? Am I getting my needs met? Have I expressed my needs? Now, let me talk to the people who seem to think that there's some kind of magic ball on relationship and you shake it up real good and it'll tell you what somebody wants. There isn't one. There is no magic ball that's going to let you know what your partner wants or needs. That's called conversation. You have to be interested enough in your partner to really understand not only their wants, but your wants as well. You have to give yourself permission to say it's okay for me to express my wants. Many years ago in marriages, oftentimes people, especially women, didn't have the right to voice what their wants were, what their experiences were, and what their needs were. They were often silenced. One of the things, and if you follow me for a while, you know that I hated this statement as a child, be seen and not heard. So basically, what you're telling me is don't have a voice, don't have an opinion, don't have a statement about what's feeling right for your life. Hated that as a kid. And I make sure that with my grandkids, that is not being said. I encourage them to have a conversation. I encourage them to have an empowered voice. I did that with my kids because no one should be told, oh, well, just be a trophy, be seen. Don't let me hear you, though. Don't have an opinion. Don't open your mouth. Don't be protective. No. You have to be able to say in a relationship what you actually want and what you actually need. Have you made your list? Have you written down what you actually want out of a relationship? What you need out of a relationship? What you bring to the table? What do you actually bring to the table? When I'm working with clients and I talk to them about identifying what they want, need, and the characteristics of the individuals that they would like to bring into their life, I will oftentimes ask them, well, what do you bring into the table? I'm a firm believer that if I got 15 things on my list of things that I want someone to come into my life with, I need to be operating in those 15 things. I'll give you an example. Oftentimes you hear people saying, well, men need to come and their credit needs to be good. They need to have this. They need to make this kind of money, drive this kind of car, own this kind of thing, have a vision, da-da-da. And then you don't. Well, that's a risk for him. He's bringing all of that stuff to the table and you bring nothing. You're a risk. You are an absolute risk because he stands to lose all the things that he's worked hard for because you have a demand for him to come to a prepared table and you show up with nothing. Maybe you'll have a fork and a knife so you can eat. But outside of that, no substance. You can't demand for a person to bring something to the table and you show up empty-handed. You're going to have to bring something to the table or you're going to keep getting played. They'll bring you in just long enough to make you the trophy for a moment, and then they're going to dump you for somebody that has vision, purpose, that they operate in a space of demure is the current word. I love that. And you're not bringing that to the table because as we get older, our skin is going to sag. Our bodies are going to let gravity do what it does. And we're going to age. And if the only thing that you brought to the table were looks and you can't engage in a conversation, the moment somebody can come in and intellectually engage with that person, you're pretty much going to be at a loss. So you have to know what you want out of a relationship and you have to know what you bring to the table and effectively communicate both of those things. Another thing in conflict resolution is asking yourself, well, what am I actually feeling? Am I feeling the present of the right now conversation or am I feeling the pain from the past? What am I actually feeling that is causing me to react, that's causing me to be upset, causing me to be frustrated, causing me to be aggressive? What am I actually feeling? Well, feelings start from within. So you have to challenge yourself from within. Now, if you have a partner that is emotionally or verbally abusive, physically abusive, then what are you feeling that's keeping you there? Why are you allowing yourself to stay in situations that abuse you? Any type of abnormal use, whether someone is talking to you crazy or abusing, your money or trying to manipulate you, isolate you and things of that nature, that's abnormal use. That's abuse all day, every day. You have to then begin to ask yourself, well, what am I feeling that's making me stay? How am I moving in this place that is causing me to live in discomfort? Have I always known discomfort? Why is it so comfortable to be uncomfortable? Why am I not allowing myself to be valued? Those are questions that you want to ask yourself. Well, what am I actually feeling and how is my feelings being impacted by this relationship? Am I being heard? Am I being seen? Does the other person care about what I have to say about how I feel? Do I care about what I say or how I feel? Because if you don't care, if you feel like you have no value, no one else is going to value you either. They'll just take advantage of you for as long as they possibly can. You're the only one that can change that. Here's a question that I would challenge you to ask yourself. What is my partner thinking or feeling? Have I checked in with them to find out why they may be responding? Say, for example, if you have a partner that works a high stress job and has to be on all the time, and the only time that he or she is not on is when they're sleeping. When was the last time you checked in and say, hey, look like you need a break. Come on, let's go do something that doesn't make you think. I know for me as a therapist, and I said this to a client the other day who said, I need a healer. I'm attracted to healers. And I said, well, it sounds like you're going to be preparing yourself to abuse them. And he said, what do you mean? When you say I need a healer and you're not healed, that means that you're going to be pulling all of their energy out of them on a constant basis. It's going to be like being a therapist 24/7. I often don't participate in social gatherings because the moment that someone says that I'm a therapist, I begin to hear all the life situations. I begin to hear all the things that's going on. And even when I try to avoid responding, and I'll just kind of nod and, do the therapist thing, just nod in an attention, there's still this edging of, why don't you go ask Marcia? I bet you Marcia has some input. Well, Marcia is a person, and I don't always want to be on. And so when you have a person in your life that has a high stress job, for example, you have a person that's always in leadership, always have to make the decisions in everything they're doing in their day-to-day functionality at work. At what point do you think that they don't want to be in that role as a decision maker? How are you supporting that in the process? If you are married to a teacher or in a relationship with a teacher or something, do you think they always want to be in teacher mode, doctor mode, nursing mode, all the different positions that's around the world? No one wants to be on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When you come home, your home should be a safe space. Your bedroom should be a sanctuary. But if you're bringing everything from the outside into your bedroom, then you don't have a sanctuary. When you bring everything outside into the home, it's no longer safe because you're making people be on. So take that into consideration. And lastly, in conflict resolution, have I positioned myself to listen? Most people don't. Most people are at a place where they want to be heard, but they don't want to listen. Most people want to be right, but they don't want to listen. There is no way to effectively reduce conflict in relationships if nobody's listening. No one listening with an intent to understand. If you are in a conversation and you present as listening, but your mind is in a place of how am I going to respond? How am I going to do this? How am I going to justify? You're not listening. You're just present. I would encourage that you put yourself in a mindset to intently listen with the importance of comprehending what the other person is saying. Truth is, you want to be heard too. So you would want them to really put themselves in a space to purposely hear and comprehend what you're saying. I know for me, one of the most aggravating things is having to say the same thing 5 times. For me to say, what part are you missing? Not changing the verbiage or asking, do I need to break it down another way? A lot of times when you challenge people and making sure that they understand, they get offended and thinking that you're kind of down talking them or demeaning who they are, challenging their intellect or their intelligence, but you're really not. If you try to explain something one way and they're not getting it, you have to find some other words to use. Hopefully those words will bring the message of why a topic is important to you and why you need to be expressive in that. The bottom line in conflict resolution is making a decision to communicate with your partner so that you both can be heard, that you both can feel safe, and that you both can deliver a message that can be received. It's easy to reduce conflict as long as you are intentional at wanting to reduce conflict. You get to choose that. You get to decide when it's important for conflict to resolve and how important that conflict is. Never give your voice away, but always be in a position to be heard so that you can adequately respond, reply, and communicate. So I hope these tips will help you to reduce your conflict in future engagements, and I hope that you learn to empower your voice. So until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on all of my channels. I would love to continue building a community that comes in and grabs these tips, listen to each of the podcast episodes so that you can gain something, take something away, and pass it on. So I'll see you on the next episode of Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Take good care. Thank you for listening to Authentically Peculiar with Marcia. Follow us on your favorite streaming app.